The market bounced, right? The market bounced, didn't it? In today's video, we're going to see how far this bounce is actually going to occur. Is this fake? Is there more room to go to the downside? A lot of things are up in the air. The best we can do is take a look at everything as a whole in the market and make the best informed trading decision possible. All right, so in today's video, we're going to do exactly that. We're going to take a look at the VIX, the overall market, the large tech stocks, the S&P, and the NASDAQ. All right, so without further ado, we're also going to take a look at the crypto market. So without further ado, let's get started with the video. First and foremost, this is a daily time frame of the S&P 500. All right, what we have to do straight off the bat is we're going to take a fib level from the most recent highs to the most recent lows and diagnose where the market currently is sitting. All right, right now, the market is trading right at the 38.2% fib. Okay, what I want people to realize is there are two zones that are very important levels of resistance on this bounce upwards. All right, so we are above the 22.6. Spectacular, great. But the two zones that are very, very important levels of resistance are between the 38.2 and 50 and between the 50 and the 618% fib. These are very, very important levels of resistance. And from here is where the market most likely is going to end up bouncing and making a decision. Okay? So for now, we can see the market is pulling back between the 38.2 and the 50, which is normal. Okay? Yesterday, on basically the Monday's candle, we ended up wicking into the 50 and the 618% fib and pulling back. These are very major levels of resistance. The only thing that's going to help us move forward is what other dynamics are pushing the market. The other dynamics that are pushing the market are the large tech stocks. Those are the things that are going to really, really heavily determine how much more room there is to the upside, or is this a really good shorting opportunity for people to reshort to make another low? That's what I'm currently looking at. Is basically after people shorted the top here, they need to take some profit down here at levels of support. And then the market in general is going to end up bouncing to these levels of resistance. From here, this is where the market is going to make a decision moving forward. All right, so that's basically what we're going to be looking at. We're going to take a look at the large tech stocks. First, let's go ahead and take a look at the NASDAQ. All right, so this is a daily time frame of the NASDAQ NQ futures. All right, so what we're going to do is same thing. We're going to make a fib level from the most recent highs to the most recent lows and see where the market is currently sitting. The S&P 500 and the NASDAQ are both trading below the 38.2% fib of this move. Very quite interesting. And once again, there are two major levels of resistance for this continued move to the upside. It's going to be the 38.2% fib in the 50 and the 50 and the 618% fib right here. And once again, we have to realize, look, people ended up going short at the top, right? Institutions, banks, hedge funds, they were short up here. Where do people want to take profit on their shorts? At levels of support, okay? And that's exactly where we ended up wicking off of on yesterday's candle. We ended up wicking off of prior levels of resistance, which is support, okay? So this was a level of support. We came back down to it. People took profits on their shorts. That's what caused the market to bounce. And now the market is in bounce mode. We see tons of things bouncing. We see crypto market. We see the overall stocks. We see Tesla, Apple, Meta bouncing out of the overextension. But how far are these things going to bounce? Is this going to be a bottom? Let's see. Because, a lot happened during the COVID. Trump's tariff with China. This big red candle. Many people. So once again, if you take the fib level from here to the lows, we failed basically right at the 618% fib. All right, if you're looking at this, we filled right at the 618% fib. And then the next day, we ended up pulling back really heavily down to the 23.6. So this right here, this 50 to 618% zone acted as a major level of resistance. The market pulled back, and I'm sure tons of people started to become very bearish. But what ended up happening? That was the low. This ended up being the low. So is this also going to end up being the low? Maybe. We are playing longs, obviously. We have to go long. But how much more room is there to the downside? There's a lot of room to the downside. So let's go ahead and take a look at the large tech stocks and the VIX so that we can get a better understanding of the next steps moving forward. All right, so this is a daily time frame of Apple. Apple has literally been in a range, bro. This is a daily time frame. It closed almost the exact same price that it closed yesterday. Didn't do anything. But what is it trying to do? It's trying to create a level of support. What does that basically force people to try to do? It forces people to try to go long. All right. Right now, technically, Apple is holding this level of support and basically failing at around 272 prior level of resistance. Okay. And this is going to be the equivalent of basically the 38.2% fib. So yeah, literally that's exactly the 38.2% fib, failing right at that 38.2. So we're just getting a holistic view of what the market is doing. Apple is trying to base out and hold support, okay? Now, this is a daily time frame of Amazon, all right? Amazon has been a massive winner, huge winner due to earnings, gapped up multiple times, and now it is trading back within the upper level of the Bollinger Band. When price trades outside of the Bollinger Bands, price tends to want to revert back in. That's exactly what ended up happening here on Amazon. And now Amazon is comfortably trading above 248 level of support. We didn't even get a massive dip. It's still holding above 244, 246. Amazon is still holding support. So this, in general, for the market, what is that basically trying to tell us? Amazon is pretty damn strong. It did not get even a massive move back down to fill this huge gap, which is really strong, okay? So Amazon, technically, it's holding pretty well, specifically holding above the 248 level of support, which is very important. Google, this is a daily time frame of Google. Very strong. Google is also based out similar to what Apple was doing. One of the winners today. Google did very well. And in terms of the fib level, it is comfortably trading above the 50% fib, but it is now trading within the 50 and the 618% fib here. That is generally a very important zone. People call it the golden zone, which tends to be a level of resistance. So Google, big strong move. In general, massive upside due to earnings. Really strong stock. Gapped up multiple times. And now it's holding above a important level of support. Holding 280. Not only is it holding 280, it held 278. Massive important levels of support that are being held. Google needs to break above 286, and it's going to end up making new highs. If 286, 287 breaks to the upside on Google, chances are this is not going to end up, specifically if the 786% fib breaks to the upside on Google here, I don't see how we end up reverting back, especially if Google is one of the main winners. If it reclaims the highs, I don't think we end up making lows. That would be very rare to see. But right now, Google is setting up for a nice continued move to the upside. This is a daily time frame of Microsoft. Microsoft is still showing a bit of weakness, but what is it doing? It's chopping in this range. I am not extremely bearish, but this is clearly, we broke below the lows. The low that essentially Apple, Google were basically holding, right, and bouncing off of, Microsoft is essentially breaking down lower from it. So we made a new low and closed below yesterday's candle, which is not bullish. So as long as Microsoft can hold above 495 to 500, all of these, in my opinion, once it drifts lower into this zone here, it's going to be a good buying opportunity. So Microsoft, especially holding, like, I doubt weakness in Microsoft is going to pull the market down. So if we end up coming here, even tomorrow, we get a bit more of a move lower, and Google and other large tech stocks are still showing strength, Microsoft is going to end up being a good buy. All right. And, overextensions to the downside during a bounce is a very good buying opportunity. And that's exactly what we ended up seeing today with a lot of these other names. So let's go ahead and take a look at Meta. So this is a daily time frame of Meta, right? Very far overextended to the downside in terms of the Bollinger Band. Came back down to a very important level of support here between 625 to 630. And we ended up bouncing. And today was green. We ended up rallying pretty well today, intraday on Meta. And we're holding 630. Is this an immediate, like, oh, wow, bulls are back in control on Meta? Absolutely not. This is not extremely, extremely bullish. This, if anything, is, it's kind of scary. Because right now, what is the market trying to tell us? Yes, we could try to go long. But if we don't get a solid, strong close above 650 tomorrow, and we end up bouncing a little again, the next moves afterward can be another leg lower. So soon, what I want to see soon out of Meta is a strong move to the upside. If Meta gets a nice strong move, if Microsoft bounces off of those lows, and if Apple, Google, Amazon, Tesla, we're going to see the AI stocks also doing well. But Meta, it's on the precipice. It's on the brink of disaster. It's tough to be extremely bullish, and it's also really, really tough to be bearish. That's the thing. So we want to see how Meta responds around the 650, 655 area. From here, we're going to see if this is another shorting opportunity or if that was the bottom. Because technically, right, I would have liked Meta to drop down to 614 to 620 to go long. We might have missed it by about, basically it dropped to 627. So we might have missed it. But regardless, I would have liked Meta to drop a bit lower. If it bounces, so be it. We're long in certain things. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. We're not long Meta. Tesla had a very, very big bounce. So this is a daily time frame of Tesla. We held 442 almost perfectly. You see this red support level. Held it perfectly. We are now trading right below 465 level of resistance. This is setting up for a continued move to the upside. So Tesla is very strong. Apple held support. Tesla is doing phenomenally, actually. Google is also doing well. Amazon is also doing well. Microsoft and Meta, not doing too great, but Tesla's doing well. So when these large tech stocks, so basically what I'm looking at is the majority of these large tech stocks, are they bullish or are they bearish? Tesla looks bullish. So that in general, the fact that a lot of these tech stocks are looking good is a good sign for the market. So keep that in mind. And we also have news coming out of the decision for the Supreme Court on Trump's tariff. So if that news, if the Supreme Court overturns Trump's tariff on China, the market's going to rally. So this is a very good sign for the overall market that these stocks are doing so well. This is a daily time frame of Netflix. Netflix is also doing very well. The fact that it's bouncing off of this level of support, 1050 is a very major level of support. I wanted it to drift a bit lower, but we held. It tried to hold. We drifted much lower today, but we bounced basically the exact same point that we closed yesterday. So Netflix is trying to bottom itself out. Meta is also trying to bottom itself out. And then we had a lot of winners out of Google, Amazon, and Tesla. So these stocks in general, they do not look extremely bearish. Pragmatically speaking, a lot of these tech stocks so far do not look extremely bearish. And to top it all off, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the AI-related companies and the chip stocks. So yesterday, I went swing long on NBIS, and I also went long on CIFR. These doing very well. So these are very, very good companies. NBIS is partnered with Microsoft. Microsoft gave them a lot of money for their cloud infrastructure and AI related stuff. So let's go ahead and take a look at NVIDIA. All right. So NVIDIA, this is obviously very, very important to look at. NVIDIA is getting a massive pullback. It's red and it came back down to 190. The fact that NVIDIA is pulling back, but money is still flowing into the overall market, and the overall market is still green as a whole, and these other large tech stocks are green as a whole, is a very, very good sign for the health of the market. Even if NVIDIA comes back down to 190, 188 to 190, by all means, the fact that Tesla, Apple, Meta, Google, these other stocks are getting love is very, very important. And another stock that is actually getting a lot of love is AMD. AMD rebounded off the lows. This is a daily time frame. AMD rebounded off of the lows very, very aggressively. And this is the 20 exponential moving average on the Bollinger Band. We bounced almost exactly off of that level. AMD is a massive winner today. ARM just reported earnings. ARM is actually was up in the after hours. I'm not sure why the price isn't showing, but ARM bounced as well. So a lot of these companies are either at support and bouncing. Qualcomm is also bounced really, really well today. They reported earnings also. In general, these these AI-related stocks are doing very, very well. Large tech stocks, the Mag 7, are also doing very, very well. It's very tough to be extremely bearish on the market. But we're getting close. In the next day or two, 1 to 2 trading days, the market is going to need to make a decision if this move is actually the bottom. Because what could end up happening is we could bounce to a level of resistance and start to chop and move up and down between these levels of support and resistance and start to range. That's another thing to take into consideration. So that's the only caveat, but behind all of this that's going on, the other main thing that I want everyone to take a look at, we could take a look at it together, is the VIX. The VIX is genuinely very, very important to monitor. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at why. So this is a daily time frame of the VIX. The VIX is very, very important to monitor because it has an inverse relationship to the market. If the VIX is rising, if it's bouncing off of support and doing very strong, that means the market is bearish. When the VIX is falling, like it was these past 2 days, when the VIX falls, the market bounces. They do the opposite, okay? So what is currently going on? The VIX is trading above $17. $17 is very, very important support for the VIX. We basically bounced very close to $17 today at $17.30. As the VIX comes to this level of support, as the overall market comes to those levels of resistance, that's why I'm saying we are very close to a very important juncture in the market as a whole. The VIX is getting close to support, and these other stocks are getting close to resistance. Which direction things are going to go is going to be dependent on a lot of different things, and namely, I think it's going to be dependent on the government shutdown opening up, and also the Supreme Court deciding on Trump's tariff. Those two things are going to help us either break 17 support and also break above the levels of resistance for the market. Things are very close, and it's going to end up chopping around most likely between these levels. So just keep that in mind. And based off of like technicals, there needs to be an important move in terms of news for something to really move. Because technically, the market is bouncing, but we need to see if it's going to be sustained move in general, and that's going to be dependent on the news. All right, so with that being said, we took a look at the stock market. We're going to get a better understanding of what I'm talking about by looking at the crypto market, because when we look at Bitcoin, for example, right? Bitcoin needed to bounce. This is the daily time frame of Bitcoin. It needed to bounce. We were trading outside of the lower level of the Bollinger Band. We came back down to 98,000. Very, very far overextended to the downside. A bounce was necessary. We bounced. Now, what's going to happen now that we bounced a little bit? What's happening with the large tech stocks? The large tech stocks are already over here. So a lot of these large tech stocks are already at the highs, where Bitcoin, where Ethereum and Solana are not as strong. So that's something to take into consideration. So this bounce in Bitcoin, as long as it holds above 100, should continue. Okay? When you look at Ethereum, Ethereum was very far overextended. I wanted Ethereum to drop down to below 20. I wanted it to drop to 2,500 to 3,000. That would essentially be another leg lower, and this would be a much better opportunity to go long. But again, Ethereum is also trying to bounce because it is very far overextended to the downside, and a bounce was necessary. So essentially, moving forward with the news in terms of the government opening again, government shutdown closing, and Trump's tariff news, the Supreme Court overturning that is going to be heavily dependent on how far up this is going to go. Okay? Very, very simple. Same thing with Solana. Across the board with Solana, Ethereum, and Bitcoin, everything is really just heavily dependent on the news now. The bounce, that was the easiest thing to do, to go long at the bounce. Going long into support earlier today as well. We went long at the open. We played the market really, really well. Now what happens is up in the air, and it's very, very just heavily dependent on the market retesting and breaking above levels of resistance. That's really it. So, but as a whole, pragmatically speaking, the large tech stocks are doing very, very well. So because they're doing very, very well, that gives me an inclination of the overall market strength, and it shows that there is some strength in the market. Okay? So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Have an amazing day. Thank you.